Anyone who has gotten caught by their parents watching pee, doing drugs, etc. What was the situation like? And what was their response? Never got caught, but when I was 16 I thought I broke it, so I had to call my mom to take me to the doctor. It wasn't fun realizing my mom knew I was jerking off. Was even worse when I had to tell her I might have broke my dong jerking off like a madman. Alright, time to make an butt out of myself. God of War had just come out, and I know you all remember the naked ladies in it. Well, I was young, and, of course, frisky, so I was beating off to these freaking video game gals, and, as they are wont to do in such times, my parents both barge in. Now I get my dong back in my pants, throw some covers over my lap and manage to shut the TV off, all in mere moments. My parents looked concerned. I understand. I was sweaty, my face flush with blood, and I can't imagine the look I had on my face. My mom starts in asking if I feel sick, etc., etc. My dad, however, has the beginnings of a huge freaking grin spreading across his face. Next thing I know, he has the covers and he is yanking and laughing. I am losing my crap, holding on for dear life, pleading with my eyes to just stop. Haha, my mother finally made him and they let me be, but goddamn, they knew. My dad walked in on my boyfriend playing with my boobs over shirt when I was 18, and my boyfriend quickly jerked his hands back. My dad smiled and laughed and said, "I saw what you were doing there," and then walked out. I thought for sure he was going to kill me, so my boyfriend and I were terrified to leave the room. When we did, nothing happened. Didn't see that coming, considering my dad is a very large angry man. Well, you were an adult. I used to download shitloads of random pee on Kazaa long ago. I'd literally type in pee, then click hundreds of links and just let them download overnight. In the morning I'd check to see which movies actually finished and weed through the good, bad, disgusting. I should mention this was on my family computer located in my father's office. One morning I got the dreaded foot stomp from the floor above. I raced upstairs at about 6 AM to my father screaming at me and saying something about my mother being in tears. I didn't really understand anything until I noticed a video of a huge 300-pound fat chick getting fricked by some skinny scumbag. I was incredibly embarrassed and told them it was just a virus or spyware that got installed on the computer. I used very technical language like RAM and BIOS to confuse them. Later that year, one of my friend's fat sister showed up at the door to pick up her brother. My father called down to me and said, "Hey son, your girlfriend's at the door." I was incredibly embarrassed and told them it was just a virus or spyware that got installed on the computer. I think we've all been there. My mom didn't catch me doing drugs, but she definitely knew I was on them. Let me paint you this picture. I'm 16, laying on the floor in our basement wrapped in a comforter, staring out the glass sliding door crying. Mom comes home early and asks what I'm doing, and before I could stop myself, my mushroom-induced babble erupted. "But, Mom, it's just so beautiful. The trees are cradling the sky like a giant teardrop." Mom blank stares, blinks, asks what I'm on. My response was stupid and priceless. "Good Mom, I'm just hormonal." And then I ran upstairs to hide and watch music in my closet for 4 more hours. I was 16 or 17 and I had only smoked pot a couple of times at this point, not getting too high any other times. Wanted to get actually baked. I had a firecracker, an edible, like a pot brownie, and did the half and half method like everyone told me to. Half hour goes by, nothing. An hour, nothing. 2 hours, nothing. Not wanting to waste my money, I eat the rest of it then. No more than 7 minutes later it all of a sudden hit and I was rocked. I'm talking hard to see high, head feels cloudy, and my eyes had more red than them in white. I was at a friend's house and didn't have to be home for another 2 hours, so I thought I'd sober up by then. Nope. 2 hours later I walk home from my friend's. Thank God he lived close. I never would have been able to drive. I walk inside and immediately go up to my room. My mom yells up to me to come down. Dinner will be done soon. As hungry as I was, I knew I couldn't be seen like this. I yelled back that I didn't feel well and was going to sleep. She runs upstairs and I try to burrow in my bed so she can't see my eyes or how rattled I am. After rolling me over against my will, She looks at me, says nothing and walks out. I'm really paranoid and confused at this point, and 10 minutes later my dad and mom both walk in. Interrogation begins. What were you doing after school? Blah, blah. I deny. My mom starts screaming at me. We know you're high. How could you do this? Your future. Blah blah, and storms out. My dad sits there for a couple seconds longer, smiles and winks at me and then walks out. TLDR. Took an edible for the first time, got stupidly stoned. My dad was jealous. I would suck your dad's dong. He's so cool. My mom walked into the room the other day and said I may be drunk, but the house freaking smells like weed. Love you, ma. I had just moved into my new place on my own, so I'm sitting there smoking a joint with a friend. Suddenly I see my grandfather walking up to the door, and of course he just walks in, right as I'm throwing everything into the coffee table drawer. He takes a look around. Obviously he has caught us in the act. He says that's a hard smell to hide, but you don't have to hide it from me. Best response yet. My childhood best friend's mom caught me and my buddy hitting his new bong in his bedroom. We probably should have went outside, but oops, we honestly didn't know what to think. We just looked at her, a little bit terrified. Then a few seconds of silence later and my friend finally opened his mouth to let a massive cloud of smoke out. All she said was, well, I was gonna ask you guys if you were ready for dinner, but I guess I already know the answer to that question. I got caught by my father while I was watching P when I was 15 or 16. He came into my room to ask me a question and found me sitting at my computer going to town. I have no idea where this came from, but I just looked at him square in the face and said, "You mind?" He promptly closed the door and went downstairs without saying anything. Nothing was ever said of it again. I was caught by my dad when he came barging into my room to get a jacket because he used to put some of his clothes in my closet. My mom crammed all of her stuff in the one in their room, so there was little room for my dad to keep his stuff. I was wearing headphones at the time, so I had no clue he was about to walk in. As soon as he did, he looked at me and said, "Hands off the unit," and walked out. We exchanged some weird looks at the dinner table the next day. Still don't know why he called it a unit. I like how your father thinks exposed dong and pee is acceptable as long as there is no hand contact. In high school, with all of my wisdom, after I got stoned as frick, I stashed my herb and bong in my desk drawer, and by mine, I mean the family's office desk. I ended up forgetting about it and leaving. Come home later, or the next day or whatever, and realize I left it there instead of my normal hiding place. I opened the drawer, and it was gone. Spent the next day or so crapping myself waiting for the confrontation. It never came. Words were never spoken of it. Waited till they were gone one day and went through my parents' room. Get to the sock drawer. Bingo. Most of the 1/8 I had was gone, and had a fresh pack ready to go. TLDR. My mom stole my herb when I was 17. I probably should have mentioned that while I was reclaiming my goods from the sock herb drawer, I also found her stash, with some crappy cheap herb, rolling papers, roach clips, and a little toker. It's been 9 years, neither of us has ever brought it up. This actually happened 2 weeks ago. Sister's friend is supposed to spend the night. She gets over early and just walks into the house. No knock or anything. I'm upstairs going at it. She walks by my open door and pokes her head in. Asks what I'm doing. I say just jacking it. She nods and goes back downstairs. Very chill person. You had the plot of a PRNO in real life and you blew it. When I was about 16, me and my friend were smoking pot in our front yard in the middle of the night. We were geniuses back then. Well, my dog was a tiny little butthole that liked to wake my parents up in the middle of the night to go outside. As soon as my friend heard the door creak, he launched the roach halfway across the yard and leaned against the truck all nonchalant. I panic and just stand there looking up in the sky like a deer in the headlights. My mom peeked her head outside. "So what are you boys doing out here?" I am still just looking up at the stars, refusing to make eye contact. Oh, you know, just looking at the stars and hanging out. My high brain just high-fived itself, thinking I actually got away with it. My friend's response, not so much. "Homework," he blurted out right as she was heading back inside. She just looked at us, gave us the aha and went back inside. My friend found the roach and continued to smoke it because no reason to ruin the buzz. The next day my mom sits down next to me as I am playing FFX. I know what is coming, so I refuse to acknowledge her existence. She basically just said, "Don't let me catch you doing it again," and left the room. 3 years later I find out through my friend's girlfriend that she was just freaking with me the whole time and made a huge joke of it to my whole family behind my back. I love my mom. Goddammit mom, I'm trying to do homework outside with my friends at 2 AM, please don't disturb me. I was whacking it with the door open. Rookie move I know. And my mom walked past while on the phone with my neighbor. She sees me and starts laughing and telling my neighbor what I was doing. She said I was playing with my Peter Wheater. My parents caught me watching P when I was 13. My parents were furious and horrified. I was never allowed to be alone for months after that. I was even forced to go to counseling for a while. Fast forward a few years and I receive my new MacBook Pro. I opened it up and my mom looks at me and says, "No P." I look her dead in the eye and say, "No promises." The look on her face was priceless. Holy crap. I did not expect such a response from you guys. And for those of you who were wondering, counseling went well and by the end of it the guy had basically told my parents to back off and leave me alone. The guy was pretty cool. LOL. Counseling. After a few sessions with your son, I have concluded that he is a 13-year-old. They like P. Years ago, banging in my room with a porno going on the TV. Hear my dad enter the condo to take the dog out. He didn't know I was even home. Scrambling to get pants on as he hears the TV volume and investigates. Grabbed pants off the floor and start putting them on, but they're way too tight for some reason. Pull harder. No good. Pull back down. Stuck. No time to figure it out. Dad opens the door to find her in my bed, mostly under the blankets. Porno on the TV still loud and strong. And me laying on the floor with what ended up being her jeans pulled up to my thighs. He turned around and walked out of the room. It took me a few reads to realize there was a girl involved. When I was 11 my dad looked through the computer's history. He called me upstairs and was like, "WTF is this?" I was like, "Oh, it's for school. Health class." I expected him to yell at me, but he was just like, "Okay, but hey, I want you to promise that you will never look at this stuff again. It's not good for you." The next day I felt guilty for lying to my dad. Went up to him and was like, "Dad, I lied. I'm sorry. I was looking at that stuff because, well, I don't know why. It just made me feel good." He replied with, "It's okay. Just remember your promise." Too bad I couldn't keep that promise for too long. My dad caught me busting a nut to a fake nude picture of Jennifer Lopez when I was 13. He said, "I don't care what you look at or do. Just don't let mom catch you, or we both lose the internet." So I continued to masturbate to fake celebrity nude pictures, covered up style. Mom never found out. Dad, don't do it when your mother is in the house. Second time, I thought I told you not to do it when your mother is in the house. Third time, seriously, you gotta stop doing this when your mother is around. Mom, awkward silence and leaves. LOL, what a chill dude. Underage drinking. I was 15 and at my first house party, I drank vodka for some reason. 2 hours later I am over the bath puking up blood. I had never felt so bad. I was so bad that a girl came in the bathroom to get undressed and change into something else and I couldn't summon the energy to lift my head up to see her massive watermelons. A phone is beside me ringing and my friend looks at it. WHO's the goose. My mum, as in Mother Goose, perhaps just a UK term. Snellius. WHO's the goose. My friend's laughing as he asks, but then he answers. Anyway, my parents realize what's going on and my dad comes to get me. He's furious at the door but doesn't show it. I remember I was in the car and just kept saying, I think I've got swine flu, and, to paraphrase, my dad just said, "Shut the frick up." I passed out in my own vomit when I got home and got the talk the next day. I think I've got swine flu might be the greatest attempt at covering up being underage drunk. My mom found my weed once. She didn't tell me until my father was able to talk to, and they sat me down and talked about how it could ruin my life if I got caught. I'm in college BTW. I turned into a bigger deal when I tried to explain to them that it was decriminalized where we live and it was only a $20 fine if I got caught. It was a long 2 hours with a lot of yelling, and now we don't talk about it. I was caught smoking herb in my bedroom a few years ago when I still lived with my grandma. She flipped. My god, I've never seen that woman run in my whole life. She ran though. She ran up to me, grabbed the bag on the table and grabbed my bong. She proceeded to grab my wrist and drag me to the bathroom. I remember her saying, "You see this garbage?" Pointing at the dope. She flushed it down the toilet. Then she dragged me outside with my glass bong in her hand and she smashed it on the driveway and told me God hated me and I will be sent to heck for my wrongdoings. I'm stoned as crap at this point. I couldn't help but say chill bro, then 5 minutes later fully realized what she had just done. But I couldn't yell at her. She sold. I'm stoned as crap at this point. I couldn't help but say chill bro. This is funny as heck. I'm imagining your old grandmother screaming and going crazy and you're just standing there squinting and red-eyed. Chill bro. Mother walked in on me as I was watching P, asking me a question. I played it off until she realized I was watching P. Couldn't get it off the screen without it being obvious. She was astonished and yelled, "Are you watching P?" So I nodded and said, "Yup." Establish and maintain eye contact to assert dominance. Accidentally left a bong, still containing water, on our patio after having the house to myself for a week. Parents asked whose it was and I told them it was my friend's. "Did you try it?" "Yeah." "Did you like it?" "Was alright." Pretty much left it at that. My parents are freaking awesome. My parents had the first reactions to finding my brother's weed. My mom flipped a tit at him. My dad told him how to hide it better. Ha. 12-year-old me told my father the lesbian P I accidentally downloaded was for my health class paper. At the time I believed he bought it, but he probably just let it go. An interesting story, Kakarot. But if I recall correctly, your father was destroyed by freezer. When I was 15 I worked all spring as an umpire to buy a plane ticket to Buffalo, NY to stay with this girl and her family that I had met a year and a half before. Her family knew I was a child of divorce and that I lived with my dad. Well, her mom, Mrs. G, had noticed her daughter giving me special affection during my time there. One night, she sat me down and gave me the talk in order to explain to me that it was her daughter's frisky week. It was the most awkward 20 minutes of my life, her daughter cracking up the whole time. Mrs. G let me sleep in her daughter's bed that night under the promise that we wouldn't do anything. PFFFFT. Woke up the next morning and her dad woke me up. That was pretty awkward. My mom said, "Come here, let me smell you." I said, "Nah mom, I'm hungry." The best possible response. Couple months ago a girl came over to my house. We ended up getting it on. Near the end, I heard a knock on my door. My dad walked in. She was on top of me and we were going at it. He smiled, laughed, and walked away. He has never said anything about it again. It ruined the moment. I wanted to finish. She put on her clothes and hid under my bed. For 3 hours, I watched The Big Lebowski. It was a strange moment, and I learned my dad didn't care at all. Good times. She's not my lady friend, man. I'm just trying to help her conceive. When I was younger I used to watch P like any other kid and whack it under the desk. Except probably unlike any other kid I didn't bother containing my juice. So it would end up shooting up onto the underside of the desk and dry there and eventually turn yellow and old and smell and blah blah blah. Well, I had been doing this for like 3 years and then we got a new desk, so the old one had to come out. We had to turn the old one on its side to get it out of the doorway and my stepdad had to reach under the desk to get a hold. Luckily for him, I had just whacked off down there not an hour earlier, so he get a giant handful of wet semen to start out. I'll never forget his face when he looked under there to see what was up and saw all the dried old jizz and then looked at me. I was an only child so my parents knew what was up. I think I burned that desk out of embarrassment. And then you grew a ponytail, moved in with your girlfriend and the cycle continues to this day. My mother caught me when I was dropped back off at home. I was 16 and my vision was destroyed by that keef and she just said, "You hungry my little stoner?" After a night of watching Netflix with some vodka and cranberry juice, I left the bottle on my nightstand so I could just pass out. Every other time I have done this, I wake up the next morning and hide the bottle just on the off chance my parents would walk into the room and see it. They don't want it in the house. My Korean mother has been sober her entire life, so has little knowledge drinks of any sort. One early morning, she decided to drop in on me before she heads out to work to request a favor. After asking me, she looks over at the bottle of vodka on the nightstand and asks, "What this?" "Half bottle of vodka, half asleep, though freaking out on the inside. I say to her, "Yeah, vodka is Russian for sparkling water." She proceeds to shake the bottle rapidly. When she sees there is no fizz to it, she says, "Oh, this gone bad Ozza. I throw away for you." She then leaves the room with the bottle. The rest of the day I am a little on edge because she could totally ask somebody what vodka really means. She comes home later and doesn't say anything about it for a few hours. Right before the family is set to go to their own rooms for bedtime, she says to me, "It is shame I throw out $40 bottle of sparkle water." She actually made the quotes with her fingers. "Make sure is no flat next time, that way I know hit you for being stupid at 6 AM. You made it really easy to read the things your mom said in a Korean accent." My dad caught me on some website called Generals or something like that and proceeded to tell every male member of my family. I vowed to delete my history from then on. I'm pretty sure he wasn't mad at me for it, but relieved that I wasn't gay, as I was a very flamboyant child. Oh, the irony. I used to sell a lot of herb in high school, so much that as I was dividing up to sell to people it actually made the whole house smell. So when I walked out my room, my mom said, "We know you're smoking in there. It's not that big a deal, but don't do it again and you're not driving anywhere." She thought the smell was me smoking in my room, but I wasn't smoking. I just had a lot. And she wouldn't let me take my car out because she thought I was high, even though I hadn't actually smoked. So I spent the rest of the night walking across town making my sales. My father caught me smoking pot once. It was kinda awkward. He was insistent about dropping my little sister off to me somewhere. I kept trying to find an excuse for him to not. Anyway, he shows up and asks me why I was squinting. Apparently, because it's hot and cold out, wasn't the correct response. I lied to him. Told him it was the first time. He gave me his middle school science award because I had started experimenting. I still have it. He gave me his middle school science award because I had started experimenting. That's pretty funny. My mom borrowed my laptop and I hadn't cleared my history. "Women aren't things" was the only thing she said when she returned it to me. Women are abstract concepts. I got caught doing drugs only when I had become such an addict I didn't care if they knew or not anymore. After a particularly bad night involving the police, they took me to a rehab clinic in the middle of nowhere and I've been clean ever since. My mom and girlfriend at the time walked into my room to see me playing on the computer, headphones in, and rolling a joint completely bare butt naked. Mom already knew I smoked pot, but I was still caught. Oh, hey guys, make yourselves at home. If you've never been caught, then you're not taking enough chances with your masturbation. I've taken plenty of chances that were very risky. I just wrapped it up quick and listened for footsteps. Not difficult. I never got caught, but we caught my dad. When I was young, my dad was the perfect father. He loved my older sister and I with all his heart, and everyone in our family assumed he was the perfect man. He was an orthopedic surgeon, extremely successful, and an outstanding citizen. I remember so many good times with him, from being at all of my hockey games, to introducing me to the most important aspect of my life, music. We used to listen to his Beatles, Stones, Steely Dan, Paul Simon records together, and he really shaped me. Which sort of brings me to the tough part. My dad was secretly a huge prescription drug addict. Since he was a doctor, getting drugs was easy for him, especially back in the early 90s. At the height of his abuse, he was taking upwards of 80 high-strength Vicodin just to get through a single day. He had pills hidden inside his ties, in the fingertips of his gloves in the garage, sewn into secret compartments in suits, etc. He had no pre-existing condition, and I've never really asked him why. Frankly, I don't want to know the answer. He was my hero, and seeing him weakened and a slave to something so ludicrous still makes me sick to my stomach. When my mom finally put the pieces together, yes, it took a long time. He was an expert at concealing it. She filed for divorce and my dad's and mine. Life spiraled out of control. This man, who taught me everything, who made me proud, had an entire other life we never knew existed. It wasn't just prescription drugs, but alcohol, and who knows what else. He moved out and remarried a woman who was on the exact same downward spiral. They had 2 kids together, who I am very close with. He ended up in rehab to get clean in the late 90s, and turned his life back around. My stepmom, however, went to rehab 3 separate times and still uses to this day. He left her recently but has been there for my half-brothers throughout everything. He and I remained close throughout the entire ordeal. My sister has never really forgiven him and I'm not sure she ever will, but I don't blame her. I just can't ever imagine not having him as my dad or a part of my life. The silver lining is that he never forgot about his kids. He always took care of us and provided for us even through everything. He and I have never been closer and I'm happy to call him my dad. You never really think your heroes could be so vulnerable, but everyone has a secret or a breaking point. End depressing story rant. I'm sorry that you had to go through that, and it's incredibly relieving to hear that throughout it all he never faltered as a father. I wish the best for you and your family. Thank you for the powerful read. Halloween 2009. Accidentally got blackout wasted. Noticed my mom was acting strange towards me the entire next day. That evening my dad informed me that I had crawled into bed with her that night. That's all I know. When I was 17, my mother found some potweeds in my tuxedo as I readied for prom. The next day, she threatened to send me to rehab. I couldn't stop laughing, which only made her think I was high. So 1999 was a different time. 8th grade. No computer internet for a year. It was pretty awful. Get out of my room, mom. When caught jerking off you need to make her feel like she's in the wrong for violating your space. Mom found empty box of condoms and half empty bottle of 151 in my closet when I was 16. Each parent was mad about a different topic. Dad walked in on my ex riding me. He immediately turned around and closed the door, then later that day gave me a high five. Purple bananas, like for good luck. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.